Asahi is a depressed loser with no life or friends. However, everything changes when he accidentally bumps into 5 freaky girls and somehow riz them up. So now they all want his sausage for dinner. It all began when Asahi woke up after having a strange dream about a cute girl and started preparing for school. While watching his usual fortune teller program on television, it was predicted that he would have 5 lucky encounters that day, but he suddenly rushed out when he realized he was late for school. On his way to the train station, he bumped into a 4-eyed baddie named Aoi who landed on him, giving him a glimpse of her fountain of youth. She got so embarrassed that she ran away, but she had no idea that her plot armor was left on the floor, so Asahi picked it up as a souvenir. Afterwards, Asahi rushed to the station and boarded a train which was surprisingly emptier than usual. He decided to take a nap, but before he could do so, a green-haired hottie named Bai entered the train and sat beside him. His virgin urges immediately started going wild, and his loser meter reached the max when Bai fell asleep and glued her milk factories to his lucky arm. When he tried to free himself, they ended up falling and landed in the ultimate plot position. She immediately tried to behead him thinking he was an enemy, but at that point, bro just wanted to escape the kung fu maniac. He luckily escaped the crazy lady and ran to a staircase only to get a deja vu feeling from the morning's premonition. He shrugged off the feeling and walked down the stairs, only for a girl to suddenly trip behind him and use his face as a personal chair. This made his shield hero rise, but she got so creeped out that she blamed herself for being smoking hot and irresistible. While still sitting on him, she decided to end his bloodline by smashing his Easter eggs before running off. Some minutes later, Asahi ran into a cleaning robot holding a pair of pink plot armors it called trash. Immediately he grabbed it. A loli named Amelia showed up and accused him of stealing her padded plot pack. As he tried to explain himself, the girl named him a certified plot thief, and as they argued, the robot tried to snatch her undies which it called trash, causing her to run away. As he walked away, he found a dog playing with a student named Ilya, but totally ignored them. He soon realized he was late for class, so he rushed to school and went on all fours, and thanks to his friend Yashio, he managed to avoid the teacher. Once he settled down, he realized he was surrounded by all the weird baddies he got entangled with earlier, so he tried to avoid them by facing the wall. However, the homeroom teacher, Bai, noticed that he was a latecomer, so she asked him to turn around. When he turned, the other girls immediately recognized him and plastered his face with a slap. After class, Yashio asked what he did to get hammered by baddies on his first day, and when Asahi told him about the weird encounters, he got so jealous that he wished it was him instead. At the same time, the girls were bad-mouthing Asahi in the locker room, but Aoi was convinced that the events that happened that morning weren't Asahi's fault. During sports, Yashio told Asahi about all the research he did on the girls that beat him up, and he revealed that Ilya was actually a boy. After leaving the gym while later, Asahi found a note in his locker, inviting him to meet under the cherry blossom tree after school. As he ran through the hallway, he bumped into Aoi, who asked him if he picked up something that belonged to her that morning. When he tried to pull her whites out of his pocket, he accidentally grabbed Amelia's plot armor, which earned him another slap in the face. He went to the cafeteria thinking his day couldn't get any worse, only to run into Karen who couldn't buy the snack she wanted because the cafeteria was closed. He decided to give her a banana which he said he'd been keeping in pocket all day. However, this made her realize that it was the banana that stood up in trousers earlier, so she got embarrassed and thanked him for the banana. After they made up, Asahi stepped out to buy a drink, but he ran into Ilya being bullied by dogs again, so he saved the poor guy from the mutts by using his own dumpster as a shield. After the violation, he left the dog magnet and went inside where he ran into Bai in the hallway, and when she noticed he'd been injured, she dragged him to the nurse's office. There she apologized to him for what happened on the train, but their conversation was interrupted when Amelia came by. When she told Bai she didn't need any help with her medical situation, Bai left them in the room. After she left, Amelia told Asahi that her tiny cushions were chafing due to the lack of support, so he returned her padded plot armor he had picked up earlier. Amelia then apologized for freaking out, adding that she knew he was innocent and claimed she was just lashing out due to anger. After school, Asahi left thinking he was free from the terrible day. He went to the cherry blossom tree where he saw Aoi waiting for him. When he tried returning her plot armor, she suddenly confessed that she was in love with him. Just then, a wild gust of wind sent her undies flying through the air and lifted her skirt in a way that gave him a clear view of her cookie. Asahi's mint-sized brain got completely fried when he saw Aoi's glowing diamond, but Aoi had no idea, so she kept rambling on about how couples formed under the cherry blossom tree became eternally bonded. When Asahi told her she was going commando, she got embarrassed and said she couldn't bring herself to ask about her missing plot covers. Seeing that Asahi kept focusing on her whites that were stuck on a tree, she ran off in embarrassment. As he walked back home, he kept thinking about Aoi's weird love confession until Ilya suddenly startled him with dog sounds. As they sat together, Asahi asked Ilya if he had anything he wished to say, but the midget said he wasn't sure how to say it. Asahi told him that he didn't have time for his nonsense, but when he started to walk away, Ilya confessed that he's in love with him. Asahi wasn't a JoJo fan, so he told Ilya to go see a therapist. As Ilya continued to preach love, their conversation was interrupted when Bai suddenly arrived and dragged Asahi to a dark alley. She told him she didn't have any time to explain what she was doing and suddenly started biting his neck, causing him to freak out. When some random men walked by the alley and saw them, they assumed they were doing a 50 Shades of Grey remake, so they left them alone. After they left, Asahi's knees turned to wet spaghetti, as that was enough to trigger his virgin milkshake. Bai then explained that someone was trying to woo her, and since she's been avoiding him, he's sent men to look for her. She apologized for dragging him into her mess, but before he could react, she confessed that she's in love with him. Asahi got so nervous that he started backing off, and when she tried to tempt him using her milk cannons, he ran away. As he ran, he tried to figure out how a wimp like himself managed to rizz up 2 baddies as well as a cute boy, only to suddenly run into Karin, who started chasing him around in a wedding dress. When she caught up to him, he noticed that she was a famous model as her face was plastered on all the billboards, and he assumed that the wedding dress was for a photo shoot, but she told him it's for an actual wedding. She then revealed that he was the groom in this situation, and when he asked why, she said she's in love with him. Although there was a church nearby, she stunned Asahi by taking him to a love hotel, and she asked him to clap her cheeks so hard that she'd be on spaghetti legs for a week. Asahi played the romantic card, telling how to close her eyes for a kiss. However, the moment she did, Bro dipped faster than Flash. Asahi was once again trying to figure out where his Riz power was coming from, and he ran into Amelia, who was wearing a mask. She handed him a form to sign for her, but when he tried to sign it, he realized that she was trying to bait him into signing a marriage certificate. When he said he wasn't ready to get married, Amelia claimed he'd change his mind because she was a gawk queen with a black hole for a throat.
Yeah, boy.
Just then, the cleaning robot from earlier returned and snatched her plot armor again, allowing Asahi to escape the creepy Loli's clutches. When he arrived home, he was finally ready to catch a break from all the madness. But the first thing he saw was all 5 of his crazy maidens sitting in his living room. He was about to pull an avatar, but Aoi dragged him inside. He then heard a message from his father which informed him that all 5 baddies in front of him were his potential brides, and he added a guy into the mix in case Asahi played for the other team. Immediately it's mentioned that they'd all be living together until he picks his bride. The maidens started arguing over who would be the first to get bumpy in the sheets with him until he yelled at them to stop goofing off. After they settled down, he told them to get out as he wasn't ready to play his father's game, but the girls called him rude since they had nowhere else to go. Asahi told them to book a hotel, adding that there weren't enough rooms in the house, but then he found out that his dad built a whole new section of the house with extra rooms. Despite the argument, Asahi still refused to let them stay, so they begged him to reconsider, and even cooked a 5-star meal for him. When they sat down to eat, the girls started fighting over the right to feed Asahi, so he screamed out of frustration. Afterwards, Aoi met up with Asahi while the other brides were doing the dishes, and she thanked him for not kicking them out, but he was too distracted by her peaches to hear what she was saying. Just then, Ilya came by with a banana pudding and tried to feed Asahi, but Bro left to go blow off some steam in the shower. Karin tried to join him, hoping she could get a taste of his popsicle, but he kicked her out and then noticed Amelia hiding under the bathtub. He chased her out as well, and as she walked away, Asahi closed his eyes because she had all her goods on display. Asahi was so annoyed by their shenanigans that he dressed up and went to his room to get some sleep. He checked around to be sure it was safe before climbing his bed, But when he lied down, he saw Bai sticking on the roof like Catwoman, causing him to freak out. At that point, he got fed up with their pesky disturbance and he once again asked them to leave, but they said they had nowhere to go, so he decided to leave instead. He went to a shrine where Aoi met him and told him about how they were all excited to meet the man of their destiny. When she apologized for going overboard and promised to leave with the others, Asahi realized he'd be a horrible person if he allowed that to happen, so he agreed to let them stay on the condition that they stop messing around with him. Aoi agreed, and this made him smile in a way that gave her a flashback of a guy she knew before and brought tears from her eyes. When they got back home, Asahi told the rest of the girls as well as Ilya that they no longer had to leave on the condition that they stopped acting all hungry for his cream toppings, so they agreed and celebrated together. A couple days later, Asahi woke up and realized that someone was hiding under his sheets despite the millions of locks he put on the door. When he lifted his blanket, he saw Amelia trying to take his toe print to make their marriage official. A while later, he complained to Aoi about what happened, and she said it's because they all were desperate to feast on his man parts. When Karin woke up, she asked for face towels, so Aoi guided her to where they were, and when Bai came looking for a tablet, she helped her out as well. Just then, Amelia showed up wearing only a towel, and she complained that she couldn't find her plot armor, so Aoi revealed that she'd washed it for her. When Ilya came by, Aoi asked him to write some kanji on their omelette rice, and he does a great job at that. However, Amelia got jealous and decided to give it a try, but her kanji skills stank worse than the breath of a One Piece fan. At school, their class had a kanji lesson, and when the teacher called Karin to write an answer on the board, she flexed her kanji skills to perfection. Everyone was stunned because she came from a foreign country, and because Amelia didn't want to be outdone, she offered to answer the next question. However, she flopped harder than the latest season of One Punch Man, and she tried to salvage the situation by claiming that it was a prank, but nobody bought her story. After the class, the teacher announced that there would be a kanji test the following week, and the entire class groaned when they heard this. However, Amelia was confident that she'd ace the kanji test, but when she turned around to talk to Asahi, she saw that he was long gone. Meanwhile, Asahi was having lunch with Yashio on the school roof, and when he asked why they had to have lunch there, Asahi said it was because he couldn't relax in the classroom. Yashio started yapping about how cute Amelia was for trying so hard, but Asahi said he saw it that way because she simply hated losing. He then told him about a day in the past when Amelia lost a game of rock, paper, scissors with a television host and got so worked up that she swore she'd never lose again. She spent that entire night doing research, and this made Asahi and Aoi worried for her. She then declared that she'd figured out a way to always win at rock, paper, scissors, and she was so confident that she put her special puddings on the line while asking everyone to challenge her. However, she ended up losing all of her pudding, and as she cried, Asahi yelled at her for making everyone uncomfortable during breakfast. When Yashio heard that story, he said that Asahi was having a lot of fun and then stole some of his food when he wasn't looking. He asked to have some more, but Asahi said he couldn't give him because it was his favorite food. Yashio got so jealous that he started crying, and Asahi wondered how Aoi knew about his favorite food without him telling her. That night, Asahi asked to help with the dishes, but Aoi said he didn't need to because they were already done. Karin then asked him to come upstairs for some private yoga, but he changed the subject by asking where Amelia was. Karin said she had no idea, so Ilya informed both of them that Amelia went straight to her room after dinner. Asahi went to check on Amelia in her room, but before he could knock the door, he heard her making lady noises which left him confused. As her battle cries got even more intense, he wondered what she was doing, but then he heard her role playing a scene from Game of Thrones while calling his name. When he entered the room, he yelled at her for spouting weird nonsense, but then he noticed that she'd put up kanji words all over the walls. She explained that she was studying for kanji by reading a book which had a lot of difficult kanji words, and he remarked that it was crazy to use in a row story. But she said she'd study however she wanted to so she could ace their upcoming test. Asahi pointed out that she seemed frustrated, so she explained that she was bothered by the fact that she couldn't use the kanji characters that Asahi used because even a brainless turd like Yashio could use them. With a bright red face, she told Asahi that she wanted to be good at his country's language, so he proposed having a study session together after school the next day. The following day, they met in the library, and when Karen asked why Asahi chose that spot to do their studying, he said it was because people would get the wrong idea if they use her room. He then gave her a test to gauge her current level, and she complained that there was no need for it, but he motivated her to do it. When she finished, she begged about how easy the test was, but Asahi yelled at her because she only succeeded at writing out all the sus words she knew. He then gave her a second test, and it turned out the same way, so he decided to give her some special training. At home that evening, Bai was excited to give Amelia a pudding she got for dessert, but she noticed that the loli was nowhere to be found. Later that night, Asahi walked up to Amelia's room door and noticed that she was burning the midnight candle, which made him worried for her. During class the next day, Asahi noticed that Amelia was still busy with her kanji studies instead of paying attention. When Asahi finished teaching her kanji for the day, he suggested heading back home, but she told him to go alone because she wanted to keep studying. He asked why she was so fixated on it, so she got ticked off and gave a speech about how working hard without succeeding was the same as not trying at all. She eventually broke into tears and said she wanted to be able to use his language before running away. That night, the girls were worried about Amelia, so Asahi went to her room and tried to cheer her up. But she got teary-eyed once again as she confessed that she felt like a horrible person for being rude to him. Asahi said it was fine because she knew she was just as hard-working as Astae, and he patted her on the head while telling her not to hate herself. This gave her a flashback of a boy she knew in the past, and Asahi gave her a tiny book with kanji characters to help with her studies. The next day, Amelia labeled the entire house with kanji, and she confidently took part in the kanji test at school. When the results came out, Amelia saw that she got 70%, and she was grateful for all the help that Asahi gave her. As Asahi ate lunch with Yashio, he smiled when he saw that Amelia correctly wrote his name in kanji on his honoris. Sometime in the past, Ilya's father changed his name from Irina to Ilya and said he'd now live as a boy instead of a girl. In the present, Ilya thought about this very day as he sat on the toilet seat, but Asahi suddenly walked in, causing him to freak out. A while later, Bai, Aoi, and Ilya went to a game booth where the hosts informed them that the prize for winning was a hot spring vacation for two. Aoi was determined to win because she wanted to see Asahi's popsicle outside of its wrapper, but she told Ilya to have the first try since they were entering 3 times. The 3 of them ended up winning the game, so Asahi and his squad geared up for a hot springs trip. Karen tried to grab Asahi, but he ignored her as he walked ahead. They eventually arrived at a resort named the Featherfin Inn, and Amelia was pleased because she'd heard all about that elite establishment as well as the beautiful proprietress who ran the place. Soon after, an old hag introduced herself as the proprietress, and they were stunned because her face looked uglier than a special grade curse. When she asked why they were speechless, Bai lied that they were moved by the decorations and charms all over the place. Asahi said they were there because they won a prize, but the proprietress said she already knew. When she asked to prepare their rooms, Karen tried to suggest giving her a personal bedroom with Asahi, but Bro requested to be put in a room with Ilya, which was separate from the girls. In the boys' room, Asahi noticed that Ilya was acting weird, so he playfully asked if he'd have preferred to be put in the girls' room instead. Ilya said he was a messy sleeper, but Asahi said it was alright and smacked him in his rear. Just then, Karen showed up with Amelia and asked to play a game of ping pong with them. When they went to the game room, the girls split into teams with Amelia and Bai on one side of the court and Aoi and Karen on the other. The girls enjoyed their fun game until the ball got stuck in Aoi's cushions. As the boys watched from the corner, Asahi once again asked Ilya what was bothering him, but he said it was nothing. Meanwhile, Karen successfully rage-baited Bai during their match, so she blasted a powerful shot that destroyed the room and crushed Asahi's family jewels. The impact of the shot also ripped apart Karen's clothes somehow, so she hid herself in embarrassment. During dinner that evening, Amelia asked Asahi if they'd get to eat sushi on an OnlyFans model, and when Asahi said no, she started yapping about how it was a norm at the Featherfin Inn until the proprietress told her they didn't offer such a service. However, the old lady served them a tengu platter instead, and when Asahi asked about the tengu in the hot spring, she said it had lived there for years according to the legend. When Amelia asked what a tengu was, Bai informed her that it was a legendary creature in Japan and added that monks who were training in the mountains transformed into them. She then told her the mask on the wall represented the look of a Tengu, and Emilia claimed it was only a legend, so the proprietress informed her that long ago, a Tengu who appeared at the hot spring instructed them to protect his sacred ground. She then admitted that nobody believed that ridiculous story in the present day, which was why the inn was in a sorry state, and Emilia added salt to the wound by saying there was no such thing as a Tengu in the real world. After dinner, they decided to take a bath, and as Asahi took off his robe, Ilya started panicking because he didn't want Asahi to find out his secret. Just then, Asahi smacked him in the peach again, and he tried to tell Asahi to stop doing that, but he noticed that Bro's baby elephant was in full display. He asked Asahi to cover up, but Asahi said they could let it all hang out because they were both guys, and after he went to the hot spring, Ilya brainstormed about a way to fool him until he spotted a Tengu mask on the wall. When Ilya walked into the bathroom, Asahi's jaw dropped to the floor when he saw a majestic bulge in his lower region. As Ilya washed himself, Asahi glazed him for having a bigger package than Johnny Sins, but when he asked why Ilya was covering his top half with a towel, he claimed that it was because he was too hairy. When Ilya entered the pool, Asahi couldn't take his eyes off Ilya's meat tower until Ilya told him it was making him feel uncomfortable. Asahi randomly suggested helping Ilya wash his back, and Ilya acted confused, so he explained that it was a normal method of fostering friendships in Japan while hanging out in bathhouses. As he washed Ilya's back, he pointed out that Ilya's body was silky smooth and not hairy like he said it was, and Ilya got scared that he'd figured out his secret, so he proposed washing his back instead. When Asahi turned around, he tried to wash Asahi's back, but the bulge got in the way, so he made up some goofy story as an excuse. Soon after, the boys went into the sauna, and even though the heat was really getting to Ilya, he was determined to outlast Asahi so he would still believe he was a man. After some minutes, Asahi noticed Ilya's package going into Super Saiyan mode, so he called him a real man and ran away to escape the heat. When Ilya came outside, the wind blew his towel to the top of a huge rock beside the spring, and he reached to grab it, but he was too short. Emilia and Karen finally managed to peek over the fence, and Asahi walked into the room at the same time. They were all stunned when they saw Ilya putting on the mask because they thought it was a real Tengu, and Asahi ran away to find Ilya while the girls fell from their peeping spot. When Ilya met up with Asahi, he tried to continue his facade, but he suddenly tripped on a soap in a way that exposed his entire body to Asahi. Some hours later, Ilya woke up on the bed, and Asahi apologized for all the sus things he did when he didn't know about his true gender. Ilya told him about how his father made him live as a boy, and he tearfully confessed that he wanted to live as a girl, so Asahi advised her to do that. She suddenly got a flashback of a boy she knew in the past, and as Asahi walked away, she thanked him for helping her. As they prepared for school the next day, Ilya came downstairs dressed as a girl for the first time and introduced herself to everyone as Irina. Sometime later, Irina was having some girl talk with some of her school friends while Asahi gossiped about her with Yashio until Bai informed them that class was about to start. As they walked to class, she suddenly called Asahi back and helped him fix his necktie before advising him to always look presentable. Soon after, Yashio told Asahi he was jealous of all the attention he was getting from their baddie teacher, and when Asahi asked if he liked her, Yashio started yapping about his dreams of getting dominated by a hot cougar. He then claimed that Bai had a lot of fans among the boys, so Emilia remarked that men were simple-minded oafs. Karen then asked Asahi why he was drooling over Bai when he had a younger hottie like her hanging around, so he crushed her ego by telling she was acting like a retired call girl. Aoi pointed out that Bai was also popular among female students, and Yashio claimed she had the calm and collected attitude that every guy dreamed of. That evening, Bai was stoned after having a million rounds of whiskey, so she started goofing off with the girls. When Irina pointed out that her milk factories were sticking out, she asked Asahi to help her fix it. Bro was so caught off guard by this that he spilled his drink, and he asked her to do it herself, but she tried to pounce on him instead. Karen managed to hold her back, and Bai told everyone she loves them before passing out. When Asahi went back to his room, he saw a human-sized lump in his sheets, and he thought it was Emilia. But when he took off the sheets, he saw a mysterious man putting on that espada drip with shades on. The suit man told Asahi he was coming with him and suddenly knocked him out. Some hours later, Asahi woke up in a dark room, and the man informed him that he was being used as bait to lure Bai there. He lost his cool when he realized he was tied up in a bondage position, and it didn't take long before the suit man, Colonel Thunders, was informed that there was an intruder in the building. When he heard this, he ordered all his guards to go after the intruder before heading out himself. After he left, Bai entered the room where Asahi was being held and took a bunch of pictures of him to use for OnlyFans content. He yelled at her to rescue him quickly, but she said she could help but gawk at him since he looked so cute. When she finally untied him, Bro was feeling violated, but she handed him some sus devices and told him to move along with her. When they left the room, Asahi noticed some suited men on the floor, but when he asked Bai about it, she lied that they were like that when she got there. However, they arrived at a section of the hallway where an armed guard attacked them, so she swiftly dodged his attack and landed a Detroit smash right in his Easter eggs, allowing Asahi to finish him off with one of the toys. Just then, another guard showed up, so Bai brought him down with a whip, and Asahi knocked him out as well with the device, causing her to glaze him. They ran to an elevator, but it refused to open when Asahi tried to operate it, so Bai informed him that there was a partial power outage due to an error in the main system. She claimed it could only be fixed in the control room, and when Asahi asked where the control room was, she pinpointed the location using a high-tech surveillance device in her eye. Since the entry door was locked, they broke in through the window, and Bai easily restored the power by hacking the system. Before they could have a victory lap, Thunders made a surprise entrance, and he called Bai Bloody Tiger, while saying he'd been waiting for her. Asahi was confused, but the man continued yapping about how Bai used to be one of the most feared warriors in the world. When he tried to punch Asahi, she blocked using an energy shield and managed to push him to the wall. Thunders then explained that Bai used to be the female version of John Wick, as she'd earned the fear of the people in the underworld by destroying countless organizations with her own hands. And he added that he was there to get revenge because she wiped out his team a few years ago. He continued bad-mouthing her, but Asahi couldn't believe him, so he asked her to show him who she truly was. When he charged at her, she tried to stop him with a kick, but he blocked and shoved her into the wall. He tried to crush her on the ground, but she dodged, so he decided to go after Asahi instead as a way of paying her back for taking out his friends. She managed to land a solid blow on him, but he grabbed her leg and started taunting her. She then signaled Asahi to hit a switch nearby, and when he did so, it triggered a rotating bed in the room they were fighting. Thunders soon noticed that Bai had wrapped him up in special threads, and he tried to escape, but she said it was futile since her threads were unbreakable. Asahi and Bai ran outside, and she noticed that Asahi got injured during the battle, so she patched him up and apologized for bringing him into that mess before admitting that Thunders was right about her. She spoke about how she spent her entire life destroying things for reasons she didn't know and said she eventually left the organization to be a teacher who helped people instead. She then expressed how happy she was to have spent time with Asahi and the girls before claiming that it was all over. When the elevator doors opened, she put on her battle gear and promised Asahi that she'd take care of him. When she arrived at a lower floor, she took down all the enemy guards and told Asahi to escape using an emergency exit while she continued to fight. Asahi tried to convince her to come with him, but chased him away with gun blasts before resuming her battle with the suit men. When she got outside, she burst into tears, but Thunders interrupted her sob session with his dramatic entrance before telling her about his new Terminator body. Using this robot body, he overpowered her and started choking her out until Asahi saved her using a fire extinguisher. When Asahi challenged him, Mongfa got a vision of a boy from her past defending her in a similar way, and when Thunders tried to attack Asahi, he slipped out of his clothes as he was covered in Diddy oil. Asahi then covered Thunders in lotion and started electrocuting him, allowing Bai to take him out with a powerful punch. After the battle, Asahi told Bai that he came back for her because she was his family, so she hugged him tightly. The next morning, everyone came down from their rooms and they were stunned by the sight of Asahi sleeping on top of Bai on the couch with lotion all over his body. Some days later, Asahi bought some groceries at the convenience store, and as he walked home, he saw an Instagram post which said that cows were having their bananas smashed, but he had no idea that a weird robot was scoping his tiny pecker as well. The bot charged up a powerful blast with the intent of making him a permanent virgin, but he was saved by a strange magical girl who destroyed the droid. He told Yoshio about his encounter with the magical girl the next day in school, but Yoshio said it was a load of hot garbage, and as he struggled to convince him, Karen interrupted their conversation by asking to have a private workout session with Asahi, causing both boys to spill their drinks. Asahi said it would be weird if he did that, so she started cuddling him as she brought up how he was in a suggestive position with Bai-sensei the other day. But Yoshio interrupted their lovey-dovey moment by whining about how jealous he was. Asahi was about to reprimand Karen for acting sus, but he noticed she was distracted by something, and one of their classmates pointed out that a huge robot was floating outside. As everyone wondered what they were looking at, Aoi identified the bot as a torsion castrator, and Yoshio showed Asahi a news report which revealed that similar robots had appeared all over the world. Bai suddenly showed up and told the student to get away from the window, but before they could react, some bots appeared and started scanning for man parts. Ninja Sensei saved Asahi from their attack, but unfortunately, one of the bots blasted Yoshio, and it created a mechanical diaper around his nether region which exploded. When Asahi checked on him, he saw that Yoshio's sword and stones had been wiped out, and when he announced this, all the boys in class lost their cool. As Bai tried to gain some control of the situation, Irina noticed that Karen wasn't around them anymore. Meanwhile, Karen was on the roof, and when she transformed into a magical girl, Asahi showed up and asked if she was the one he saw the previous night. Just then, a magical bunny named Sod appeared, and when he gave Karen a signal, she asked Asahi to play with her fun bags. Asahi hesitated like a typical virgin, so Sod pushed him towards her, allowing him to grab her milk factories. This got her so excited that it refilled her magic energy, and she blasted the giant robot with a powerful spell, but it did 0 damage to it. With her magic power depleted, she reverted back to her normal form as she fell into Asahi's arms, and Sod suggested retreating for the time being. They went into a classroom to regroup, and when Asahi asked what all the Disney drama he just witnessed was about, Karen narrated how she was an ordinary model until Sod suddenly bumped into her one day. When he realized she could see him, he asked her to make a contract with him to become a magical girl, and she went along with it because she thought it would be fun. In the present, Karen complained about how the magical girl duty was ruining her sleep schedule, so Sod apologized to her before explaining to Asahi that the bots he was facing had already destroyed the equipment of all the males in his home world. He added that when the timer on the main robot hits 69, all of the bombs would go off at once, causing all males on Earth to lose their ability to reproduce. Asahi gripped his man parts out of fear and asked him how they could stop the robots, so Sod revealed that they had to destroy the main unit using Karen's magical girl power. Just then, it was announced on the news that some fighter jets which were sent after the main unit had been taken down, and the pilots literally lost their marbles during the fight. Sod says the world's weapons had no effect on the monsters, and when Asahi asked how they could replenish Karen's power, Sod said they needed to head to a special facility where Asahi would help Katten regain her powers. When the attack got more intense, the students started evacuating from school, but Aoi stopped because she was worried about Asahi. Ilya said it was okay because he'd managed to escape with Karen, and Bai added that they needed to follow the school's instructions by heading straight home. Meanwhile, Sod took Asahi and Karen to a strange truck which he called the Magic Matching Unit and said it would help them charge up Karen's power more efficiently. When Asahi asked about the Karen's power, he revealed that his power gets recharged when the person she loves makes her heart race, and then directed the two of them into the vehicle to do some sus action before vanishing. Inside the facility, Karen started taking off her uniform, so Asahi freaked out like a typical virgin. Tried to tell her that she should only do things like that with someone she loved, but she said she loved him. Asahi then asked her how she'd been gathering power up to that point, so she confessed that she'd been doing all sorts of creepy things to him without his knowledge, and he suggested finding another method to recharge her magic. He pinned her to the wall Gigachad style and tried to kiss her, but he lost his nerve. He then claimed that she didn't love him the way she claimed she did because the power meter hadn't gone up at all despite his Riz moves. She took off her uniform and forced him to the couch before taking off his uniform as well. Before she could proceed, Aoi walked by to investigate the truck because she heard Asahi's voice, and he tried to scream for help, but Karen covered his mouth. After Aoi left, Karen took off his last piece of clothing, but before she could go to town on him, he karate chopped her head. When Sod came back, he watched as Asahi scolded Karen, and when he started yelling at him for being a pathetic coward, Asahi said he cared too much about Karen to use her for his pleasures. Just then, some bots started attacking the vehicle, so Asahi ran away to lead them away, and after he left, Karen's powers recharged as she realized how much Asahi cared for her. The bots eventually caught up to Asahi, but before they could destroy his Excalibur, they were destroyed by a magic attack, and Karen appeared in her ultimate form. She destroyed the mini-bots in her path and fired a massive blast at the main unit. The bot blocked with a blast of its own, so Asahi provided her with support, and their attack destroyed the main unit, causing all the robots in the world to vanish. After the battle, Sod vanished, and Karen got a flashback of a boy she knew in her past when she looked at Asahi. Some years ago, Asahi was having a walk with a girl, and she showed him all the different stars in the sky. They had a cheerful conversation, and when she said she wanted things to remain buddies forever, Asahi tried to say it back, but he got nervous and suggested heading back home instead. In the present, Asahi's alarm clock couldn't get him out of bed, so Amelia tried to pounce on him, but Asahi dodged her move. She then asked him to get ready for a trip they were having, and Asahi was initially confused, but he remembered that they were meant to go to the beach that day. Soon after, Yashio told Asahi and the girls that they were headed to his family's private beach, and he kept yapping about how rich his family was, but girls weren't paying attention to him at all. Irina started rejoicing because it was the first time she was visiting the sea, and when Asahi asked Bai if she'd visited the sea before, she said she'd done some infiltration missions in the sea at some point. Karen told Irina that there were deadly monsters that lived in the sea, and Amelia added that the monsters would do unspeakable things to their victims using their tentacles, so Irina got scared. Asahi said the two idiots were lying, and Bai told them to stop tormenting the poor girl, but Amelia started yapping about some manga she read. Yashio finally managed to regain their attention, and he announced that their ride had arrived, but when he went to stop it, the limo ran over him. When they arrived at the beach, the girls marveled at how bougie the beach house was. But when Irina asked Asahi if Yashio was rich, he realized that he didn't know his friend as much as he thought. They soon went outside, and Irina was scared of the seawater, so Asahi calmed her down by showing her how much fun the other girls were having at sea. He assured her that he'd save her if anything went wrong, and she thanked him for always giving her the push she needed before running into the water to join the others. After she left, Asahi asked Bai why she wasn't joining the others, but she changed the subject by telling him she didn't like calling her teacher because it made her feel old. He said it was normal because she was his teacher, but she pressured him to use her given name. So he did that but added sensei to it so that it wouldn't feel odd. Amelia and Karen interrupted their flirting by blasting both of them with a water gun, so Bai retaliated by taking Karen out with a water gun of her own. The girls had fun together for several hours until they ran into a sign which revealed that they weren't meant to wear swimsuits on that beach. They realized it was all part of Yashio's dumb plan, but since he wasn't there, they all freely took off their swimsuits. The girls expressed how relieved they felt in their birthday suit, but Asahi complained about the fact that he was forced to wear a weird mask which blocked his vision, so they explained that it was to prevent his gooner urges from taking over. Irina suggested playing a fun game of tag together, where Asahi would chase them around in his mask, and when the game began, he chased her around until she landed a Texas smash right in his family jewels. A while later, they switched to a blindfolded watermelon crushing game and Asahi was buried in the ground right beside the watermelon. Bai tried to crush the watermelon, but she ended up striking the air close to Asahi's face with so much force that his mask got blown off, and the girls were sent flying to another part of the beach. When they realized that Asahi could see their bare plots, they all screamed and tied him up in a bondage position. As they walked back home that evening, the girls talked about how Asahi put them through a lot of stress, but he claimed that he was the real victim in all this. After a bit more bonding, the girls said they wish things remained that way forever, and when Asahi turned back, he noticed that they had vanished. He called out to them but got no response, so he rushed back to the beach house to search for them, but he still couldn't find them there. Just then, Aoi appeared behind him and asked him why he was panicking. He said everyone had disappeared, but when she asked what he was talking about, he realized that he couldn't remember the people he was looking for. Aoi decided to start making dinner early, and when they went inside, Asahi tried to help her out with the food prep, but ended up breaking a plate. As they cleaned up the broken plate together, their hands touched, and this made them both blush. Asahi suggested throwing out the pieces on his own, and when he left to do that, he got a phone call from Yoshio, but Aoi ended the call without telling him. Soon after, Aoi was struggling to start the barbecue fire on the porch, so he helped her light it up and told her about how he always used to have barbecues with this family in the summer when he was younger. As she sliced up the meat, Yoshio called Asahi again, so she destroyed his phone and tossed it in the trash. When Asahi asked what the loud noise was, she gaslighted him into believing he imagined it. When dinner was ready, they sat together on the porch and ate the 5-star meal together. After the meal, they sat beside each other on the sofa, and Asahi was about to remember the other girls, but Aoi distracted him by suggesting a walk. Asahi followed her to a spot in the garden where she showed him a huge cherry blossom tree in the middle of the river and confessed that she'd loved him for a long time. He was completely baffled, but she kept asking him to love her alone until he asked where the others were. He followed up by asking who she was and what that place was, but she begged him to stay in that place with her. She then pressed her gigantic cannons on his chest, and he fell to the floor as she promised to give him everything he wanted if he stayed with her forever. However, Asahi remembered the other girls, and when he asked her where they were, he got a flashback of his old bestie, AI. Suddenly, Aoi transformed into AI, and she recreated the conversation they had in the past before telling him that they couldn't be together like she hoped. She then told him not to come there again, and as she ran away, Asahi tried to chase her, but error tabs flooded the area. When he saw the scene in front of her vanishing, he called out to her, but suddenly everything went blank. When Asahi woke up the next morning, he realized he was late for school, so he got dressed and rushed downstairs. When he saw that the house was empty, he assumed that the girls had left without him, so he grabbed a banana and rushed outside. After he left, his mother came out of one of the rooms and she got confused when she noticed he was gone. When he arrived at school, he walked up to the seat that used to be his own, but saw a wannabe gangster sitting on top of it. When he told him it was his seat, the punk said it belonged to him and then asked Asahi who he was. Asahi then asked about the girls, but the punk didn't recognize any of their names and accused him of playing pranks. He then tried to make a joke out of the situation, but when Asahi didn't react, he realized he was serious. Asahi then rushed out of class, and as he ran through the hallway, some female students recognized him as a student who'd been absent for ages. As he ran, he wondered where everyone was, and he eventually arrived at the spot where Aoi initially confessed her love to him, but there were no cherry blossoms in sight. Just then, a scientist lady appeared behind him and started checking on him, so he asked who she was. Using a tablet, she revealed that she was the one who used to be Yoshio, and said his memories are in disarray. She rode with him in an automated car and assured him that everything would become clear. When he asked if he'd be able to see everyone again, she said he would and confirmed that they were all where they needed to be. Soon after, they arrived at a facility where she hid him to avoid her boss before taking him to her office. There she asked him to sit on a high-tech chair, and as it scanned his brain, she kept asking him questions about his health until he angrily demanded to see the girls. She told him to have some patience before introducing herself as Yoshino, and she was shocked that he couldn't remember her, so she showed him a tablet which triggered his memories. He remembered how he enrolled in an experiment called the Aoi testers, and he was still confused, so she showed him a camera that enabled him to remember when she first introduced herself to him as the person in charge of the experiment. The bird brain still couldn't piece everything together, so she used a device to create a hologram of his house in the program, and explained that the environment was created by reproducing his memories. She then revealed that the place he'd been staying for the past few months was a virtual reality, and when he asked about the girls, she said they were all computer software. This information was too much for his 3 brain cells to handle, so he lost his mind and started laughing while arguing that the girls were human because they showed emotion like regular people. However, Yoshino made it clear that they were the next generation of omniscient software and added that he could only smell and touch them due to a system called the Interactive Brainwave System. It was a brand new technology that hadn't been released to the public yet, which could replicate the 5 senses. Asahi was still in disbelief, so he argued by bringing up the fact that he lived with the girls for months, but Yoshino revealed that the months he spent with the girls was only about a day in the real world. Asahi was still losing his mind, So she told him to calm down and informed him that the software they were developing was one capable of feeling human emotion called Artificial Omniscient Intelligence, or AOI for short. She then said that the software needed to gain experience through interacting with humans in order for it to develop human emotions, and it was at that moment Asahi realized that he signed up for the project. Yoshino claimed that they performed different experiments covering different forms of human emotions, and the one Asahi participated in was the one regarding romantic feelings. For the programs to fall in love, they needed to find a software that the test subject would love, so they hired a team of top-tier scientists who developed a software with every romantic appeal possible, and the result of that experiment was the 5 girls Asahi lived with. Asahi was stunned, but Yoshino went even further to reveal that she'd been monitoring him in the other world while posing as his bestie, Yoshio, and she revealed that the girls acted strangely during his first encounters with them because they had no idea what love was. She then claimed that the experiment yielded positive results because the time they spent with Asahi taught them what real love was, and everything was going smoothly until her avatar was run over before the beach party, which cut off her access to that world. Asahi got enraged and accused Yoshino of telling him lies, but eventually he gave up and sat on the chair again. Just then, Yoshino's work colleague, Yubukata, arrived and asked what Asahi was doing in her office, so she explained that they needed him there to investigate the cause of the system failure during the experiment. However, Yubukata said they needed to get him out of there before the chief notices, but the chief suddenly arrived, so the 2 ladies used their bodies to hide Asahi. He scolded Yoshino for coming to the office despite being suspended, but she toyed with him, so he straight up fired her, and when Yubukata tried to beg on her behalf, he threatened to send her packing as well. As they walked through the hallway, Yoshino told Yubukata that their company was in a mess because Asahi and Yubukata and the program girls were forcibly logged out of the system during the experiment. She then presumed that Asahi wasn't chosen at random, but rather selected by the software itself, and Yubukata escorted them to the gate before heading back. Yoshino then took Asahi to a spot where she explained over drinks that a late doctor managed to create the first whole brain simulation system by copying his own mind into the system. On Asahi's way back home, he walked soullessly in the rain as he thought about Yoshino's words. The man who created the advanced system, Kotaro, had a daughter named AI, who was Asahi's longtime friend, and after he finished creating the mind upload system, he used it to create a copy of his Ai's mind into the system before she died of a serious illness. Asahi remembered how gutted he felt when he found out about Ai's demise back in the day, so he ran to her grave and bawled his eyes out. Elsewhere, Yoshino was walking around when suddenly, all the screens in the city went blank and Aoi's face appeared on all of them. Everyone started panicking when they saw this, but the screens went back to normal shortly afterwards, and everyone, including Yoshino, wondered what just happened. When Asahi woke up the next morning, his mom offered him breakfast, but he said he'd have a banana instead, so she served herself and sat across from him. It was then announced on the news that Cavendish, the company responsible for the power failure the city experienced, were apologizing for the error, and Asahi's mom said she was glad things were back to normal. Meanwhile, the scientists at Cavendish worked harder than Elden Ring players to regain control of their satellite system, but it was no use. They couldn't believe that it was software that was causing them such turmoil. Yubukata suggested calling Yoshino for help, but the chief immediately blew her off. One of the workers said they might have to dispose of the satellites due to how severe the matter was, but the chief said they couldn't do that because the satellites were more expensive than Elon Musk's cars. Yubukata tried to call his attention to some strange signals they'd been frequently picking up, but the chief said it was irrelevant and told her to find a solution for their current situation no matter what. Soon after, Yubukata told Yoshino everything that happened earlier, and when she asked about the signals, she said that based on translations, it was some sort of message. A while later, Yoshino arrived at Asahi's room, and after a bit of goofing off, she told him she was there because she called him 1,000,000 times and he didn't respond because of all the dirty dancing he was doing in the bathroom. She said she was glad to see him doing okay after she left him in shambles with all the stuff she told him the previous day, and he was surprised that the geek had a heart. She asked if he'd be willing to go back to the virtual world since they were having a problem, but he complained that she was asking too much of him. He started crying when he remembered his last meeting with AI, and he said he'd made peace with the fact that he'd never get to see her again. Yoshino then revealed that the 5 girls he got close to in the virtual world were all different variations of AI, and added that Aoi was the one most similar to AI because she was created earlier than the others. The reason Aoi went berserk was because she somehow did a Dragon Ball fusion with AI. She also informed him that the Cavendish Company, which was their world's version of Apple, created a groundbreaking system called Muse V that was loaded with software data, including that of Aoi, and launched into space on a satellite. She disclosed that Aoi had taken control of Muse V's and interfered with networks around the world, which was the cause of the network interference the previous day. She added that there was a high chance that another blackout could happen despite how controlled the situation seemed, and Asahi was the only one who could access it because Muse V's systems were refusing all outside connections. Yoshino begged Asahi to help them because the message they detected on the system was Aoi begging to see Asahi again. However, their conversation was interrupted when Asahi's pet robot, Lovren, started jumping around like a mad dog on steroids, and it revealed a colorless hologram image which turned out to be the program girls. As the girls talked with Asahi, the image got clearer, but they now looked like Roblox video game characters. After fixing their image, they all expressed how happy they were to see their daddy again, and they informed Yoshino that the reason they weren't wiped from existence was because Amelia noticed something odd in the system, which allowed Karin to hide all of them in a secret area within the program. After playing around a little, the 4 maidens begged Asahi to stop Aoi, and they specified that it wasn't only for Aoi's sake, but because they desperately wanted to see Asahi again. Yoshiko asked them why Aoi went berserk, but their combo got interrupted when Yubukata called and informed her that the Cavendish Company was about to run a deadly program that would affect the system in a way that wouldn't even allow them to contact each other. When Lovren started tweaking again, the girls started glitching, and the city faced yet another blackout. Yoshino presumed that this outage would cause even greater damage than the previous one, so she urged Asahi to follow her so he could see Aoi again. She also informed him that the Cavendish Company was trying to delete all evidence of their crimes by launching an eraser program that would erase Aoi and the others from the system, and shut the system down forever. Asahi was still acting like a brainless fool, so she decided to find other ways to stop it herself, and she rushed out of his home. After she left, Asahi had flashbacks of all the fun he had with the girls and also the time he spent with AI when she was still alive. In one of the flashbacks, he asked AI if she wanted to meet her mother who had already passed on beforehand, and AI replied that she'd love to see her again if she had the chance. This was just the motivation Asahi needed, so he put on some clothes and ran to meet Yoshino. When she asked why he changed his mind, he said he didn't want to give up on his baddies, so she boarded him on her motorcycle and rode as fast as she could to a place which she described as her personal bat cave. When they arrived, Asahi noticed that it looked exactly like Yashio's beach house in the simulation world, so she revealed that it was Kotaro's home, which she'd been taking care of since the day he died. She then took him to a highly advanced lab, which she described as the only place they could gain access to the system. Asahi asked her why she was trying to conduct the experiment despite getting thrown out like trash by her boss, and she remembered the day Aoi told her how much she wanted to fall in love, so she finally figured out why Aoi was going on a rampage. After setting everything up, she warned Asahi that the mission could be dangerous for him, but he refused to give up, so she confirmed that he wouldn't lose his memories this time before uploading his mind back into the system. Asahi woke up in some dark technology vortex where his body was glowing white, and before he could gather his thoughts, he saw Lovren, who told him that they've cleared the first hurdle. He asked Lovren what he was doing there, but Lovren revealed that he was actually Yoshino, who snuck in with him while he was diving into the system so she could monitor him. When Asahi asked about her voice, she said it was adjusted to fit the character in the system, even though her voice sounded normal in the real world. Asahi noticed a large firewall in front of them, and Yoshino explained that it was the reason they couldn't connect from the outside anymore. When he asked how they could enter the wall, a butterfly appeared and led him to a frame on the wall that read the word "Open." When he touched it, the wall vanished, and they appeared in the virtual world. Yoshino soon ditched Lovren's body and appeared in Yashio's body. She teased Asahi by staring at his 2-inch trunk, but their playtime was interrupted when the cleaning robot showed up and destroyed the remains of Lovren. As they ran away, Yashio explained that they'd be forcibly logged out of the system if the robot catches them, and when Asahi asked if they'd be able to log in again, Yoshio said there was no guarantee that they'd get back in. They then ran into the dogs from earlier, so they switched directions and ran away until they were cornered by the robots and dogs. When the dogs started attacking Yoshio, Asahi heard a voice from the water, so he pulled him into it, and they got transported to a room where the 4 girls were gathered. When they noticed that the boys had their cucumbers hanging out, they beat them up, and Asahi explained that they appeared in the virtual world that way. Amelia asked Yoshio why he was there, so he told her he was actually Yoshino and said he'd been monitoring their various forms. He then vomited a large egg from his mouth, and when it cracked, Yoshino appeared as Sod this time. As the girls pet her, Bai held Asahi's hand while thanking him for coming to save them. Amelia joined in by holding his hand, and all 4 girls cuddled him until Yoshino reminded them that they had urgent matters to attend to. When she mentions that AI had awakened inside Aoi, the girls said they were already aware of that. They tell Asahi that their current situation was caused by an inner conflict between the 2 personalities, as Aoi wanted to see Asahi but AI didn't. However, they had a more serious issue on ground because the Cavendish company installed a program to wipe all data from the system, and they'd be permanently erased if they're caught in it. Amelia then pulled out a digital map and explained that Aoi was at the center of the virtual world, and to reach her, they'd have to take a specific route filled with logout programs set to eject intruders, as well as an eraser program uploaded by the scientists to wipe out everything, including Aoi's existence. Even though it was risky, everyone agreed to go along with the plan because leaving Aoi to rot wasn't an option. After strategizing for a couple more minutes, they went deeper into the virtual world, and they eventually arrived at the room where Asahi was previously held hostage by Thunders. Asahi said he'd been there before, so the girls started suspecting him of being a weirdo, so he begged Bai to explain the whole thing to them. However, Bai decided to keep it to herself because it was more fun that way. When they went ahead, they were faced with a wave of logout programs, so the girls got ready to fight. Bai put on her combat gear while the other 3 transformed into their magical forms. As they destroyed the bots, one of them landed near Yoshino and was about to explode, so Asahi quickly jumped to save her. However, they ended up falling into a different simulation, and as they tried to figure out how to reunite with the others, Asahi got sad when he realized that the girls only had feelings for him because they were programmed to do so. Meanwhile, Bai was using her elite combat skills to take out more bots in the hallway while searching for Asahi and Yoshino, and immediately she arrived at their location. Yoshino admitted that the girls were indeed coded to have feelings for Asahi. However, the type of feeling was undermined, but as they spent more time with him, their feelings evolved into something deeper, which even she couldn't fully figure out before the system got compromised. When Asahi noticed that Bai had arrived, they rushed back to help the others, but when they reached their location, they were faced with the deadly eraser program that the Cavendish company created. The program somehow overwrote the logout bot's code, causing it to be more brutal and aggressive. When the bots started attacking them, Yoshino was suddenly yeeted out of the simulation, and the rest of the team did their best to hold them back, but they ended up getting overwhelmed and outnumbered. They eventually arrived at the exit door, but before they could pass through it, Colonel Thunders made a shocking return as he stopped them from leaving. Thankfully, Bai wasn't willing to play on his level this time, so she one-shotted him with a brutal move which allowed the rest of the team to move ahead. As they ran towards the door, Amelia quickly punched in the access code, but before the door behind them could close, the eraser bots suddenly arrived and began to destroy the area. Seeing this, Asahi and Bai pulled a lever to open the door fully, and this allowed the others to pass through. However, when they reached the other side, they realized that there wasn't a control panel to shut the door. Bai then told everyone to go ahead while she keeps the bots occupied, and she said she'd loved Asahi ever since the day he protected AI from some bullies. She knew it was an artificial memory, but the feelings she had for Asahi were real, so she held his face and told him she'd protect him the same way he protected her from the bullies. She then smooched him and pushed him through the door. As he fell, he desperately tried to grab her, but he only managed to grab her ribbon, and the door eventually separated them when it shut. Bai set her heart ablaze as she fought the bots with everything she had, but she soon got overwhelmed and erased from the system. Since Bai was dead, the ribbon in Asahi's hands faded away, so he screamed her name in sorrow. Meanwhile, in the real world, Yoshino was trying as hard as she could to log back into the virtual world, But despite all her efforts, she couldn't break through the protective firewall Aoi set up. Just then, Yubukata showed up, and Yoshino was surprised to see her again after she ran away to save herself. When Yoshino asked why she returned, Yubukata said she wanted to be counted as one of the heroes who saved the world, so Yoshino filled her in on everything that had happened so far. As they worked together, Yubukata couldn't help but stare at Yoshino's messy but brilliant lab setup, and they both started panicking when they noticed that Bai's signal had disappeared. They started thinking of the best way to shut down the eraser program before it destroys everyone. Back in the virtual world, Karen tried to mask the pain she was feeling for Bai's passing by loudly mocking her, and the others were surprised. But the facade didn't last for long because she eventually broke down into tears. The rest of the squad joined her in mourning as they all cried over the loss of their friend. However, Asahi fought through the agony and pulled himself back up before telling the others that they needed to keep moving forward. He reminded them of Bai's passing words, and his words brought strength to the squad, even though he was secretly crying, so they all moved ahead together. They soon arrived at their school building in the simulation, but suddenly a bot came out of nowhere and started attacking them. Asahi immediately jumped to save Irina, allowing Karin to blast the bot to smithereens. They then noticed that Asahi was injured during the battle, so they snuck into a nearby classroom where Irina patched him up. As Amelia brainstormed over a solution to their problem, Asahi warned them to be careful because getting hit would cause them pain even though they didn't have a physical body like him. The girls then asked Asahi what real-world school was like, but he said he was a pathetic NEET who hadn't been to school in months. He then told them about how he got depressed after AI passed away, and claimed that he was thankful that he got to spend time with all of them. Soon after, Amelia found the next route, so they all went up a long staircase, and they were panting like overworked horses by the time they reached the top. However, when they got to their destination, they saw that it's a dead end, and they started panicking when the space around them began to glitch. Just then, a swarm of butterflies appeared, and Asahi remembered seeing them when he returned to the virtual world, so he followed their lead. They guided him to a strange room which led him to the school roof, and when they arrived, they saw that a swarm of upgraded bots were all over the area. Karen offered to act as bait to allow the two of them to escape, and Asahi tried to argue, but Irina decided to join her in the battle as well. Amelia offered to fight alongside them so they could be the Powerpuff Girls, but they reminded her that her job was too important to risk since she was their only navigator. Karin and Irina said goodbye to them before rushing into battle, and Asahi promised them that he'd wait for them. He and Amelia moved ahead, and they managed to close the door behind them to stop the bots from following. As Amelia and Asahi ran ahead, he asked her if they needed to leave a trail behind so the others could find them, and she said she left a marker for them. They entered into a secret elevator which started moving downwards, and Amelia reminded Asahi of the time when he helped her overcome her issues by giving her a pep talk. In a past memory, AI found a puppy that was lost on the street, and she decided to take it in. When they got home, Asahi watched as her dad warned her of how hard it was to take care of an animal, and he made her promise not to cry when the real owners came for the puppy. She spent the next few days taking care of the puppy, and the day finally came when the owners came by to take their dog. After they left with the puppy, AI acted strong in front of her father, but when Asahi patted her on the head and said she did well, she immediately burst into tears. The memory shifted back to Asahi's sweet moment with Amelia, and it was at that moment she felt what love was like. In the present, Amelia told Asahi that during that moment, she felt like she'd truly been born, and this left him speechless. Meanwhile, Irina and Karin started getting exhausted after battling the bots for minutes, so they decided to have a bit of girl talk as they rested. Irina asked Karin when she fell in love with Asahi, so she told her about a distant memory when Asahi cheered AI on as she struggled to pull an acrobatic move. When she asked Irina the same question, she narrated how AI once ran away from home when her dad disappointed her, only for Asahi to play hero by spending the day with her. The two then talked about Asahi some more, and Karin admitted that she wouldn't have been able to leave him if he gave her a kiss before the end. The two of them then transferred some data to Asahi, as it was the last thing they could leave him in their final moments, and they got overwhelmed by a large group of bots. In the library room, Amelia handed Asahi that tiny book he made for her during their kanji lessons and spoke about how happy she and the others were when they spent time with him. She then directed him towards the final passage and played a recording of the final words of Karen and Irina. In the message, they both spoke about how much they loved him, and this made tears stream down the face of Asahi, so Amelia apologized for dragging him into their mess. She then kissed him on the cheek and gave an endearing speech before sending him through the final passage. Asahi arrived at a forest in the simulation where he bawled his eyes out, and when Amelia's notebook vanished, he managed to wipe his tears. He moved forward to the shore where Aoi was waiting for him, and she apologized to him, but he said he was happy that she was doing all right. When he asked where Ai was, she pointed at her heart, and when he requested to see her, she planted his face in her plots. Asahi's mind drifted to one of Ai's memories when he sat by a staircase with her and talked about how the school session was almost over. She teased him for being sentimental, so he asked her if she wasn't sad about the fact that everyone was going away. Ai admitted that she was sad, but claimed that him being with her made up for all the sadness. She then reminded him that he had to pass his exams, and when he asked her if she needed him for something, she said she wanted him to come shopping with her. Asahi complained that he had to study that day, but she ignored the virgin's words and asked him to come with her. When they arrived at the mall, he saw her eyeing a necklace, but when he asked if she'd buy it, she said she'd already spent all her money on Barbie dolls. Soon after, Asahi told her he was headed to the bathroom, only to return with a gift, and when she opened it, she saw that it was the necklace she was staring at. Asahi said it was an early Christmas gift, so she thanked him and asked him to put it on her. When he did so, she asked how she looked, and Bro whispered the word cute before his non-existent brain overheated. Ai suddenly got dizzy and fell on his body, so they decided to head home for the day. That night, Ai was resting on the chair when her dad came back, and she walked to the kitchen to make dinner for him but suddenly collapsed. Sometime later, they were informed at the hospital that a devil fruit was growing in her brain, and when the doctor said there was nothing he could do, her dad started begging him until Ai told him to calm down. When he asked how long she had left, the doctor said she wouldn't make it to spring, and this made Daddy Kotaro depressed, so she cheered him up by saying she wouldn't give up. Sometime later, Asahi visited her at the hospital and gave her some bananas which he spent his life savings buying for her. When he asked if she was okay, she assured him that she was fine, and this made him feel relieved. She thanked him for coming to see her and asked him to look at the cherry blossoms with her again when spring comes, so he pinky promised that he'd do that with her. Some days later, she gave him some early Valentine's chocolates, and after he thanked her, she said she hoped they'd go to school together. Asahi promised that he'd work hard to make that dream come true, and when the snow started falling, he asked to go inside with her, but she said she wanted to stay outside a bit longer. He then pulled Iren's Riz move by wrapping a scarf around her, and he claimed that he couldn't wait for spring to come. Some days later, Ai was fighting for her life in bed, but when Asahi called to tell her he was coming over, she acted completely normal. However, when she ended the call, she saw herself looking like a low-budget zombie through the screen, and this made her cry, but she applied some makeup to cover up her sickly face. When Asahi arrived, he told her about all the trashy isekai he watched, but when he asked to go outside with her, she said she couldn't. When it was time for him to leave, she told him he didn't have to keep coming there because his exams were coming and she didn't want to distract him. He tried to argue, but she assured him that she was fine there, so he promised to work hard. After he left, she cried her eyes out. Much later, Ai's condition got much worse, and she wanted to see Asahi so badly that she played a video on her phone where she was having fun with him at the cherry blossom tree. She missed him so badly that she sent him a text saying she wanted to see the cherry blossom with him, and the present-day Asahi, who watched this memory on a screen, cried. Aoi informed him that Ai was on the other side of the door in front of him, and she apologized for dragging him into their mess, so he patted her on the head while thanking her for her help. As he walked towards the door, she stopped him by thanking him for bringing joy to her miserable life, so he thanked her as well for all the fun times they shared with others. He then bid her farewell and walked through the door. On the other side, he saw Ai standing by a cherry blossom tree, so he embraced her with tears in his eyes. She then asked him to forget about her, but he told her he could never forget her because they were always together. He went on his knees and cried as he admitted that he ran away when she was sick because he was scared of losing her. He then confessed that he always loved her, and this brought tears to her eyes. So he continued his romantic speech by telling her he'd keep her memories with him forever. AI cried as she confessed that she always loved him as well, and suddenly the entire scene became brighter. So they shared a kiss while remembering all the fun time they had together. Afterwards, he held onto her, and she handed him the necklace he gifted her before vanishing. Aoi then appeared in front of him, and they fused their glowing Raisengans together, allowing Asahi to reawaken in the real world. Yubukata informed Yoshino that the Muse V had been destroyed, and they teased Asahi for flashing them his plots. Some months later, Asahi had a friendly chat with his friends at school, and afterwards he visited Ai's grave. When he got back home, he saw some large packages, and the girls popped out of them. The virgin boy was confused, so they explained that they were given bodies by the geek duo, Yubukata and Yoshino, and said they'd be living with him from now on. As they cuddled Asahi on the couch, Aoi arrived at their door and rang the doorbell. Which one of these robot baddies do you think Asahi would lose his virginity to? Amelia? Karen? Aoi? Or maybe he'd go behind their back and have a triple threat with the geek duo instead? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. That's all for today's video. If you like anime recaps like this, check out this video here.